Yes, good evening, folks. Welcome back to Celtic Fans TV. It's starting 11 prediction time for tomorrow's game away at Livingston. We come into it off the back of that 2-0 defeat to Feyenoord during the week, and yet again on the airports and the way home, everybody's left to pick the bones out of another away day defeat for Celtic in the Champions League. This one, though, comes off the back of the club announcing last year's financial results, which were record results for the club, almost £120 million revenue, £72 million in the bank. So often following Celtic away from home in Europe, you get used to that feeling of having lost, and we can dissect the moments in the game on Tuesday that decided the result with all of the intricacies of a game of football, luck, the break of the ball, the decisions, and individual errors, their own decision making in the final third, all of those things. But when you add up the Champions League record, certainly away from home in the last 20 years, we've taken 10 points from a possible 102, which is disastrous reading, really. Obviously, going back to the early 2000s, we were still a force to be reckoned with at Celtic Park, but the away record since the turn of the century has been absolutely abysmal in the Champions League, and that has continued. But the difference now is we can't even get a result at Celtic Park now. We've got back-to-back home games to come, and hopefully we can address that. But it's been 10 years since we've done anything of note in Europe, and I think Tuesday's result, coming off the back of those financial results, and the summary the club gave about history telling us that we don't always qualify for the Champions League, and how the club want to keep a buffer, a cash buffer, which is basically the equivalent to a full year's Champions League money in the bank in preparation for the next time we don't qualify, seems to lack ambition. It seems to be a flawed logic for me. It's almost as if the club accept that, oh well, it's just a game of football, the ball could bounce in, it could bounce out, and you don't make the Champions League. We've not really got much control over it, so we're just going to keep this money stored away for the next time we don't qualify. I think it's a bit defeatist, and I think that Champions League football in particular is an afterthought for the club. It's not how we measure progress. We don't measure ourselves against our peers in Europe. We measure ourselves domestically. Yes, we've been brilliant and we've won loads of trebles, but I think the European progression or lack of progression is really, really stark, and it won't get any better while this strategy remains. Brendan Rodgers made comments yesterday to say that he was discontent or not content with the transfer business, and I think publicly Brendan Rodgers is dressing it up in the sort of nice, oh well, every manager would like one or two more signings, but there's absolutely no excuses that Brendan Rodgers shouldn't have had all the signings that he wanted in the door with a full pre-season and 70 million quid in the bank. There is no doubt that Celtic are not getting the most out of the resources that the club has in a European context, and until the club start taking European football seriously and start taking their approach to investment and improving the team on the pitch in order that it makes an impact and it makes progression in Europe seriously, then we'll keep getting the same results. Anyway, I digress. I can hear you all saying, are we not here to talk about Livingston? We are. We go away to Livingston tomorrow. It's always a tough game on a plastic pitch. We've had a really disappointing result on a plastic pitch already this season. So we're going to have to be right at it and perform professionally tomorrow. Play at a proper speed and hopefully take the chances when they come along. We know that Livingston are going to try and frustrate us. They'll sit deep. They'll make the game difficult. They won't water the pitch. It'll be dry. It'll be difficult for us to move the ball through the thirds. But we've got to find solutions to that. We've got to play at a good tempo. And as I say, create enough chances to go and win the game. We'll get to the team and we'll start in goals with Joe Hart. I think the other night there, after the performance we had in the first half, it was so disappointing to get 1-0 down at half time. I don't think we should concede from the free kick. That's maybe a poor foul to give away from O'Reilly. There's no doubt Kyogo ducks in the wall, which he's definitely at fault for that, but I don't think the goalkeeper can get beat from that distance. unless Stengs puts it in the top corner, like a Nakamura against Man United free kick where you think, well, no goalkeeper can save that. I don't think it's a huge glaring error from Joe Hart. I think that's unfair on him. I love Joe Hart. He's been brilliant for us. I even like the way that he answered the question after the game about how he was dealing with the free kick. I think he's really honest. I know he's got high standards for himself, but I think deep down he'll think that he should have saved that. And the big question mark about goalkeeper coming into this season, in the context again, given what I've just said since the introduction of this video about how we measure ourselves, how we get better in Europe, is that to get a result away from the Champions League, you need your goalkeeper to save a free kick like that. There's no getting away from it. Would Fraser Foster have lost a free kick for that distance? I don't think so. Playing at the level he used to play at for Celtic in Europe, I think, can he maybe move his feet quicker? He gets a hand to it. I think if he had saved it, I don't think he'd have looked back and went, what about that absolutely world-class save Joe Hart made for that free kick? I think he should have kept it out. As I say, the distance it is from the goal, yes, the wall should do better, Kyogo should do better, but it shouldn't be a case that if it gets by the wall and it's just anywhere near the corner, it's a goal. I think you need your goalkeeper to make good saves in Europe. You need your goalkeeper to make saves that you wouldn't expect him to make. But at the very least, you need him to make the saves you would expect. And I think that comes under that category. He'd been playing well domestically, but again, I just think maybe at this stage of his career in the Champions League, you can't afford to lose goals like that because it really put us in the back foot. And then the second half goes to pot with the penalty and the 2 red cards. But I just think that goal really killed us. It totally changed the complexion of the game. If we go in 0-0, it's a different game in the second half. Feyenoord came out in the second half with their tails up, obviously, having scored in the stroke of half time. I think he should have done better with it, and I think he'll think that himself, Joe Hart. At right back, one of the better performers the other night, Alistair Johnston. I thought he defended well at times. He's one that got pass marks for me. Centre half tomorrow, Nat Phillips still out. I think it'll be Lagerbielke and Scales. Lagerbielke makes a mistake for the penalty. I know it's harsh. I've heard some people saying they don't think that it was even a foul, let alone a yellow card. But the ball's nearly in Hart's hands. I don't think he even needs to make any contact with the Feyenoord striker. He can just let it run through the goalkeeper and we would never have found ourselves in that situation. I think those two are still the only options. I thought Scales defended well the other night. Some really good defending at the front post area, clearing the ball, defending his box. I thought he defended really strongly generally throughout the game. And I think given that he's been thrust in because of the injury crisis and he was basically on his way out of the club, he is one that can hold his head high with his performances recently. But there's no doubt that once we get the injured players back, I would expect them to get replaced. Greg Taylor at left back, in midfield, Callum McGregor, Matt O'Reilly. I think we might see Bernardo start tomorrow, so I'm going to put him in there. Hatate did come back into the lineup as I thought he would on Tuesday. He wasn't brilliant. I think he pressed really well in the game, but his decision making and on the ball was really, really poor, and I think he definitely tired in the game. A lot of ridiculous takes on social media about his performance or his lack of effort being about his head being turned and him not trying anymore. I think those are way wide of the mark. He's just back for injury. There's no doubt it was a poor performance. Obviously, the big moment in the game was when he should have slid in Kyogo when we were on top in that period in the first half. I just think because he's only just returned from injury that Bernardo might get a start tomorrow. It'd be good to see a bit more of Bernardo. This is obviously a difficult game for us. We need technicians to try and unlock the Livingston defence on that tight pitch. I hope to see Bernardo tomorrow. On the right hand side, I'm going to put Yang. Palma did start on Tuesday. Can't judge him yet. It's far too early to judge him. He did get in some good areas. I think he overplayed it a wee bit at times. The one that stands out is in the second half where Kyogo goes to press the goalkeeper. It's a really poor kick out and it goes to Palma inside the box, left hand side, and he just overplays it instead of getting his head up and playing a ball across. Maybe from Aida coming in, Kyogo's still there in the centre as well. It was a really good chance, but he just kind of overplayed it, and then I think the final defender puts a tackle in and he almost claims for a penalty or a foul, Palma, but he was never ever getting it. So just those wee moments you're looking for better from him. But as I say, far too early to judge him. I just think Yang will get the nod tomorrow, given Palma started during the week. Dyson Maida will go back to the left-hand side, and I expect Kyogo to start through the middle. We might see more changes than that. I just think the game being on Tuesday instead of Wednesday helps us. It gives us that extra day to recover, so I don't expect Brendan Rodgers to totally shuffle the pack and make 4 or 5 changes to the team. We're not really at that stage yet. I think we need to get as close to the first choice 11. I know there's a lot of injuries in there. We need to get as close to the first choice 11 playing as regularly as possible, so they find a bit of cohesion, they find a bit of rhythm. And we can't afford to be making too many changes going to Livingston, which we know can be a difficult fixture for us. So there you go, that's the team I think the manager will go with tomorrow. You can let me know what you think in the comments below, both on the team and the fallout for during the week. I don't mean to go off on a tangent about talking about the finances and the club strategy for the Champions League. As I say, you can look at that game on Tuesday and dissect it and say the players should have done better in the individual moments. But if you look back at 10 years of European football, I don't think you can explain it by those individual moments. I think the macro overview of the club's lack of progress in Europe tells you everything you need to know about where we're going in it. So there you go. Let's hope we get a victory tomorrow, a good victory. Saturday afternoon, tough away game. Let's get 3 points on the board, and we'll see you after the game with a full-time reaction. Thank you.